Well, 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 a hybrid Porsche 911, who'd have thought it? But before you get carried away and start thinking along the lines of the new 911 is in any way resemblant to a Toyota Prius, let me assure you that it's not. My name is John Marcar, you're watching Driven, and this is the unfathomably fast Porsche 911 992.2 T Hybrid. And in this video, I'm going to be finding out if hybridisation is taking anything away from the sports car we all love. Now, before you scroll away in a huff, muttering about this car not being powered by anything other than internal combustion, yes, we see your comments, grant me just a few more minutes at least, because this is no ordinary hybrid. There is still a massive flat six engine behind the rear seats, well, the seat holds. It still looks, drives and sounds like a 911 should too. There's no fully electric mode or eco setting to speak of. In fact, the hybrid system exists to do one thing and one thing only: to make this one of the fastest accelerating cars that I've ever driven. And here is how it works. Porsche calls the new hybrid system on the GTS the T hybrid system. The T stands for turbo. So first things first, a hybrid system requires a big battery, and this one has one, a 1.9 kilowatt hour battery that sits approximately around here. And the location of it being here, well, that's quite clever, because what it's doing is it's evening out weight distribution right in between that front axle. Good for handling. Then out of that big battery goes two cables to two locations. The first is the PDK gearbox, which is approximately down here somewhere. And what that does is it produces electricity into a 54 horsepower motor that works in tandem with the already quite chunky 3.6 litre flat six engine back here. And then the other bit of electricity, well, that goes to approximately here, to the turbocharger. Now this one's really clever, because what it does is it uses electricity to boost the turbo and therefore eliminate any turbo lag. And the one thing you will notice when looking around the car is there is nowhere to plug this hybrid in. And that's because all of the charging to that battery happens with kinetic energy and brake regen. Clever. In a nutshell, the hybrid system is about adding power rather than battling any eco-guilt that you may have. The result of everything working together is a staggering 541 horsepower and 610 newton-meters of torque. That's 450 foot-pounds. And that combined will get you from 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3 seconds dead, and to the fun side of 190 miles an hour. Its 1.9 kilowatt hour battery may sound small, but it is heavy, 27 kilos heavy. And as a result, the GTS is now the porkiest 911 on the market, weighing in at 1,645 kilograms. The good news is that the battery hasn't spoiled any of the practicalities. There is the usual 135 litres of space under the bonnet for things, and looking at the car from a distance, there aren't any major telltale signs, bar its grilly grills, that this is anything other than a normal 911. When we get to the most crucial bit, the driving, well, the hybrid system all suddenly starts to make a lot of sense. If you have any concerns at all that a hybrid system in a Porsche 911 takes anything away from the dynamics and the special feel, then allow me to quash any concerns right now. This still feels like a 911, and a really, really fast 911. The steering is somehow almost telepathic. The brakes feel like performance car brakes, again, as you would expect. And there's none of that sort of weird double pedal feel that you sometimes get in hybrid cars. This just gets the job done, and vice versa with the other pedal. You put your foot down in this thing and goodness me, it goes. Case in point. If you are familiar with driving EVs, then you'll already be aware that because of electricity, 200, 300, 400 horsepower does often feel a bit more powerful than 200, 300 or 400 horsepower in a full internal combustion engine. And the reason for that is because the way the power is delivered. Now, this being the hybrid, it means that we've got not only a big
punchy 3.6 litre flat six, but we've also got that big 54 horsepower electric motor plus the electric motor inside the turbocharger that's all working in tandem. So you get, in the same way as you do with an EV, that kind of unexpected boost in performance. The car itself is something around 541 horsepower, but here's the thing, it feels a lot more than that. 541 horsepower has never before felt as quick as it does in here. Now, being the GTS, we've got a collection of different driver modes. So at the moment, for example, I'm poodling along in Sport Plus, the sportiest mode the car has to offer. As standard, when putting it in Sport Plus, you get stiffer suspension, a slightly louder exhaust, slightly heavier steering, and a slightly more dynamic brake feel. But the wonderful thing about Porsche products is you can make subtle tweaks. For example, when I put the car into Sport Plus mode, I turn the sport suspension off. Leave that button well alone, because it's silly. If you are blessed with access to the smoothest, most refined stretches of tarmac in the world, then crack on. But if you are, like me, driving on Warwickshire's finest, it's too stiff. The sport suspension in normal mode is perfect. Now, beyond Sport Plus, we've got Sport, which is a slightly more dialed down version of Sport Plus. That automatically puts the chassis into a softer suspension mode, slightly more comfortable steering. Then we have Normal, which is for daily driving. And then there's an additional mode called Wet mode. What it does is it prepares the traction control system for earlier intervention in the event of wheel slip. It prepares the ABS to trigger a little bit earlier, and all in all kind of alerts the safety systems to be prepared to just kind of take care of you. It's Porsche's way of saying, don't worry, still have a good time, but if it does start to go wrong, we'll get you. Now, in terms of the gearbox, if you are a manual purist, I've got some bad news for you, because the GTS is now only available with a PDK box. But don't let that put you off, because as you might be aware, the PDK system is excellent. And you can hit the button down here, get full manual override that'll let you shift up and down. It'll also hold the revs for you, so none of that automatic upshifts when you want to be bouncing off the red line. This car will let you bounce off the red line. And here's the really clever bit. You can put the gearbox into full auto, and in Sport Plus mode, the gearbox will still do sporty things. Now, I'm not going to shift down. I'm going to prove that by putting both my hands at the top of the wheel, like a bad driver. I'm going to slam on the brakes. Let's be honest, the reason manufacturers are scaling back on the manual gearboxes is because most people walking into the showrooms to buy their new cars don't want them. It just so happens that, fortunately, Porsche's one is excellent. Now, the other big perk to the hybrid system is in the way that it delivers power directly into the drivetrain. Regardless of gear, without the car shifting down, the power is thrown into both that turbo and, of course, into the gearbox, which means that you just go. If I were in a bog standard turbocharged Carrera, it would feel a bit sort of clattery and slow, and yes, it would eventually get there on the torque band, but the way that it does it with the EV motor, it's bizarre, but a good bizarre. And then, of course, you might expect that with a hybridized system, the noises and the dynamics and the excitement all disappears, but it doesn't, because you've still got whooshy turbo forced induction noises, and that makes me very happy. The driving position, as you would expect, perfect. The brake position, brake feel, steering feel, everything is perfect. It is exactly how you would want a Porsche 911 to feel as a driver, and that's a really, really crucial key point for this car, because Porsche, well, they've done something controversial by adding hybrid systems to their 911, and let's be honest, it had to work. Well, here's the good news. It doesn't only just work, it's brilliant.
I like the GTS a lot. It might be the perfect 911 for all tasks, but there are some drawbacks. Firstly, the noises. I have a sneaking suspicion that there is some engine sound fakery being plumbed into the car via the speaker system. It sounds good, but at times a bit too good to be true, perhaps because it's not true. On the topic of sound, the road rumble might be a bit too much for some. At the back of the GTS are two 305 section tyres, which create a little bit of a racket on rougher roads and can be unhealthy competition for the excellent Bose sound system. The last crunch point, well, that's all about money.
Now, I don't know about you, but to me, everything that seems to come on the market at the moment in terms of new cars all seems to be £20,000 to £50,000 more expensive than I expect it to be. And unfortunately, well, Porsche and the new range of 911s, well, they've sort of gone the same way. Because this, as a bog standard car before any options, it's £137,900. Except this one isn't, because of course it's a press car and it has some options ticked.
The ice grey metallic paint is £1,067, the surround view parking camera is £1,298, and the bucket seats, ironically, you might want to sit down for this one, because they are £4,621.
There are actually a few more as well, including silly things like a fire extinguisher, some pointless thinner glass, LED matrix headlights, which are really expensive. All in all, we've got an options list on this car totaling over £10,000, or to put it another way, the price of a perfectly good used first generation Porsche Cayman. Ouch. I'm in two minds on the GTS. It is, let me make it clear, every inch a 911, and the addition of electricity hasn't taken any of the 911 goodness away. It's a lot of car, but it's also a lot for a car. The big thing, the hybridisation, well, this isn't going to be the first and only 911 product or Porsche product we see with hybridisation tech inside it, and you're probably aware of that already. My question to you is, how does that make you feel? You can see more on conclusive thoughts of this glorious 911 GTS at the website, driven.site. You can see my full written article there. And hey, whilst you're there, why not check out everything else we do? And then why not give us a follow on Instagram? Same handle, at driven.site. 911 GTS, 992.2. What do you reckon?